Welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the only show by real fantasy football fans for real fantasy football fans. I'm your host, 20-year fantasy veteran and Bears fan in mourning, Greg Reifsteck.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee Borek, also a 10-year fantasy veteran. I am a Bears fan, but I refuse to wear Bears gear right at the moment. And together we are the beauty
And the beast
of fantasy football experts.
So yeah, I'm agreeing with Jenilee, just the Bears. We have nothing really to root for this season anymore. But thank goodness, it's week 14, and that means the playoffs for a lot of you out there in fantasy football land. So you at least have something to root for.
Playoffs.
Playoffs!
So how many have you made? How many teams have you made the playoffs on?
Out of...
Leagues, I should say.
Out of 5 leagues, I'm in 2 playoffs, guaranteed. The third one, my work league, I'm leaning on the precipice there. I need a win this week to eke myself in so I can win 120 smacks. Yep.
And I made it in the playoffs in all 3 of my leagues, as I predicted.
Yep.
I am going in 4th in one, 5th in our biggest balls of them all league, and possibly between 2nd, 1st, and 3rd in the other one. We have one more regular week of that one. So.
Yeah, let's run down the standings here. I know Prost is in 1st. We'll talk to him in a little bit and let him gloat. He's at 9-4. Ragin' Fitz is at 9-4. The LA Rams in 2015, Jason Tufeld at 8-5. Reels Mania, good old Raheel out there, 8-5. Chi-Town's finest, you're looking at her, 7-6. The ex-presidents, Ryan, down there in San Diego, good looking out there, 7-6. Cash, hanging in there at 7-6. And then bringing up the rear, and definitely not even close to the playoffs, it's Cutler's Last Stand, aptly named, I might add, probably, at 5-8. And then unfortunately, we have Ashley and the Cash Millionaires at 3-10. And then mildly offensive, our resident Patriots fan and legal expert, AJ Lawrence. Sorry. Do we give prizes for last place in our league?
I don't know if we've discussed that, so we'll have to figure out if there should be some type of terrible fantasy player prize.
I was going to set up a award ceremony, but somebody's going to be out of town on our Tin Horn Flat show. But we'll do one. We'll
have to do one after the new year.
Well, either that, or we'll see what place you come in. I mean, hey, you could do one of those like on the Video Music Awards. Jenilee Borek can't be here tonight, but she's skiing in the Alps, and shh.
Fingers crossed. I'm the only female that made the playoffs.
Oh my God, that's right.
League, so
that's right.
I'm representing for all the females out there. Come on, let's get it on.
Lots of fantasy women out there. So let's get into the Bears really briefly. Again, agree with you. We're not wearing any Bears stuff until you damn team, you better win. Mark Trestman, we've had high points of his coaching, definitely a low point in his coaching this week.
Yeah, the last few games, I will say, have been a little sketchy with his coaching. So seems totally different than the beginning of the season was, when it was very smooth sailing. We don't even deserve the playoffs, in my opinion, and I'm a huge Bears fan, but when you lose to a team that's 2-8-1, I don't think you deserve to be amongst playoff teams, and I doubt that we'll get there. And I was happy that he actually kicked 2 field goals in the game, because he hadn't been kicking field goals.
Right.
So he took the points when we were there, and we were up for a while. Yeah. And that last field goal, I know that everyone's debating it. I've been listening to some Chicago radio, and you know how we are. on our
Oh,
coaches.
no. Oh, we're so nice to our coaches and our players. When they do badly, we just, hold them high on a pedestal in Chicago.
But I just think it was a situation that had we won the game, it's like nobody would be talking about it.
Right.
And I'm not saying don't try to get closer. It was second down. Maybe it wasn't the best decision to go ahead and kick it. But I do think he just wanted, he really believed in Robbie Gould, and he wanted to get the game over with and figured, we're indoors as well. You're not outside in the elements. Robbie should be able to make this field goal. And, you can play the what-if game of, okay, well, what if you got those 7 yards or you got 10 yards closer? But what if you ran the ball and got tackled behind the yard of, this yard of scrimmage?
Right. Then we'd be blaming him for that then.
And we'd be blaming him for that. So it's just, it just didn't work out. But had it worked out, everyone would have been happy in Bears land.
Yeah. Bears fantasy-wise worked out. Yet another great week for McCown. An incredible, record-breaking week for Alshon Jeffrey, our stud.
And I couldn't even be happy about it because I was playing against him. Yeah. So it was very hard for me because I want to be very happy for him, but it was difficult.
And how did B. Marsh do?
B. Marsh did not do good. I am ready for Cutler to come back only so that B. Marshall can catch the ball and actually get some footballs thrown his way.
Yeah.
He didn't even get many targets this game. So I don't know how you don't throw to your number one wide receiver. That's a little odd to me. You would think that you want to keep Brandon Marshall happy overall on the team.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, A, I think it's play calling, and B, I think it's you have receivers that do, fall in love with the quarterbacks and vice versa. They get the simpatico going, and they look to that person first. It just happens. And it's a case of, I think, McCown was on the practice squad forever. And he got used to, just throwing to the other receivers as opposed to, Bennett got a few good looks this game. Both Bennett's got a few good looks this game, which was rare. So it is what it is, for crying out loud.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to be an interesting game. We're on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys.
Jesus.
It's going to be really cold in Chicago, which always changes it. It's that time of season. And, I don't know. I feel like we could still possibly pull off a win. Dallas is up and down, up and down, up and down as well. Yeah. But I'm not going to get too excited.
And Tony Romo, you know how he likes to shit the bed down the stretch, heading to the playoffs.
And I need him to not shit the bed because I have him as my quarterback. So he can shit the bed this week because we're not in the playoffs in that league. But the next two, I need Romo to be on it.
This is the wonderful, delicate, beautiful balance and horribleness of fantasy versus reality football. You just covered it in a nutshell.
I did, because I was bummed out on Sunday about Alshon, and I should have been so excited.
Yeah. I kept turning. I'm like, Alshon, points for me, and she's just like, screw you.
But it was an amazing record he set, and good for you, Alshon. If it weren't for fantasy, I would have been just up there screaming and being as excited as Greg.
Yeah, we've got the best 1-2 punch in receiving right now, and we should just enjoy that because on offense things are going good, and on defense we won't even talk about it. If you still are playing them in your fantasy league, good for you. I wouldn't be. I dumped them a long time ago. Anyway, let's be positive. Let's get happy. Let's get some good picks. We're going to have special picks that we think are the key players you really need going into the playoffs. Most of these are going to be repeats from early in the season, but these are solid players, just really, really hardcore players that if you don't have them in your lineup, you're just crazy.
Yeah, and of course we're looking at the matchups too, so I think that you have to trust a lot of your players. If you're going out there to look on the waiver wire for guys, to play in the playoffs, you're probably not going to find many guys. You absolutely have to trust your players at this point that you have and kind of pray they have good matchups.
Yep. Weeks 14, 15, and 16. That's what you're looking for. Alrighty, let's get on with the real men.
Let's do it.
I need a real man. Have you seen him?
All right, so we are in week 14, and it is officially the playoffs for most leagues. I know that 2 of my leagues are in the playoffs, and I still have 1 more week to go in one of the other ones, and they're starting the playoffs next week. But since a lot of leagues are in the playoffs, we are giving you playoff picks. Now, my first pick is a guy I love, even though he's not on any of my teams, but wide receiver Calvin Johnson, a.k.a. Megatron. I really shouldn't have to say much about him at all by now, but I am going to give you a few things just to back it up. Of course, he's going to be on your team, but you should be very, very excited with the matchup that he has this week. First of all, he's the #1 wide receiver in the NFL. He has 1,299 yards on the season this far and 12 touchdowns. So I believe I said in the beginning of the season that he would improve on that touchdown status that he didn't have last year because he was lacking in touchdowns, and he has with 12 so far. Now the Lions go to Philadelphia this week, and they play the Eagles. Yes, this is why you're going to love this matchup. The Eagles are still dead last in passing defense. They haven't improved, and I think Megatron is just going to lose his mind on the Eagles this week. He's been pretty good against all defenses, but he's been great against bad pass defenses. He absolutely scorched Dallas in Week 8. He went for 329 yards and a touchdown. And we know Dallas is the 2nd worst passing defense in the league, so now he gets the absolute worst passing defense in the league. And I think this should be a high-scoring game. Detroit is 2nd in offense overall, and the Eagles are 3rd in offense overall. So I don't see either defenses making too much of a difference in this game. I think it's going to be an offensive game, and Megatron is going to lose his mind. So be excited if you have him on your team, and of course, get him in your lineup. Now for my second pick this week, I'm going to stay in this same game, and I'm going to go with quarterback Nick Foles. Now I have to admit, I wasn't a full believer, as he started a few games this season. I thought, okay, he's playing good, but let's just wait. And I still am going to say that maybe next season when he starts, after teams have film, he might not be going off, but for this season, he is going off, and he is a quarterback to play this week in your playoffs. What I do like about him is he's been taking care of the ball. He has 19 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on the season. I sure wish my Chicago quarterback had numbers like that. Unfortunately, we don't. But they're playing Detroit, as I've already mentioned, and Detroit is 26th against the pass. So again, they're not improving against the pass much at all. They're allowing 262 passing yards per game, and they've allowed 21 touchdowns through the air. So I think Foles is going to get it done in the passing game this week. He's averaging 199 yards per game, and he has a passer rating of 125.2 on the season. Like I said, I'm impressed. I'm starting to become a believer. And Detroit is good against the run. They are 3rd against the run in the league. Now, we saw this last week. I mentioned it with Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy had a very hard time running the ball against them on Thanksgiving. So I think even though LaShawn McCoy might be a better running back, I still think he's going to have a problem getting going, and I think it's going to be up to Foles to do it through the air. So go ahead, get him in your lineup, and hopefully you'll advance 1 more week in the playoffs. And my last pick for everyone this week as a playoff pick, and this one is probably about a 4 on the ball scale, but hear me out on this one, is tight end Jared Cook. Now I know he's been up and down this season, a lot of down. He hasn't had many great games, but he has a great matchup against Arizona this week. He had his best game of the season against Arizona in Week 1. He went 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's pretty good. I will take that. If he can do that in your playoffs, that would be absolutely amazing. Arizona has not gotten better against tight ends at all. They are the worst defense against tight ends in the league. and they're giving up an average of 22 fantasy points to tight ends each week. So again, this is the matchup you want to have. Now, they gave up 2 touchdowns to Zach Ertz last week, which is Philadelphia's tight end. And I know what a lot of people are saying is, who the heck is Zach Ertz? He was getting all these fantasy points. Well, he's been nobody, so he hasn't been talked about on any fantasy shows because he's been doing terrible all season. But that's how bad Arizona is against tight ends. And Arizona is good against the run. They are 4th right now in the league against the run. Something else I brought up last week, and I think Stacy's going to have a more difficult time getting going against that run, so they might have to rely on the pass and put up some points that way. So I think Jared Cook will get some fantasy points. I think he should get 1 touchdown for you all, and he's still out there on a lot of waiver wires if you're dying for a tight end because he has been so up and down this season. But those are my Week 14 picks, and Greg has Beast Mode picks to help you in your playoffs even further this week.
Welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. It's me, Greg the Beast, with 3 Beast Mode picks for you that are so scary they make Miley Cyrus's twerking look completely normal. We're going into the playoffs, of course, and I'm giving you 3 players that have just been balling all season, and you're going to be able to use these guys, for the most part, the next 3 weeks of your playoffs. I know a lot of you aren't starting until Week 15, but then you're just going to be able to hit it home, solidify a nice high playoff spot, and knock down those guys in 7th and 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th place. My first pick, Matthew Stafford, quarterback of the Lions. What a damn stud. 27 touchdowns, 3,825 yards. Holy cow. Every week this guy has been putting out. He has the weapons. He has Megatron. He's had Burleson. He's had, Forey a few weeks at a time. He's had everybody to pass to. He's just been doing great for you. On Thanksgiving, as predicted, he put out, killed, just completely annihilated the Packers defense. 330 yards, 3 touchdowns in Week 13. He's just astounding. You have 3 good weeks coming up for the playoffs. Week 14, you have Philly. We know how crappy their defense is. Jenilee's already told you about how Megatron's going to light up that defense. Week 15, you have Baltimore. They're not the Baltimore defense of last year. No Ray Lewis. Still pretty good, but I still think that Stafford can torch him. And then you have Week 16 against the lowly New York Giants, and we know how horrible they can be and how bad they are against the pass. So Stafford's just going to go off. Megatron's just going to be dancing 3-4 times in the end zone. It's just going to be awesome. So you need to make sure you put Stafford in. My second beast for you this week, because Jenilee went for a 4 balls pick, I figured what the hell, I might as well do it too. Running back Steven Jackson of Atlanta. He finally got it together. I drafted this guy. I drafted him pretty high in my draft and then had to bench him because of injuries. But finally, the last few weeks, he's really gotten it together. Week 12, he went 63 yards and a touchdown. Week 13 against the Bills, he went 23 for 84 and 2 touchdowns. He's finally getting it together. He's finally getting his speed going. As long as he stays healthy, that's the key. You have 3 pretty good weeks out of him coming up in weeks 14, 15, and 16. Week 14 against Green Bay. We know how horrible they've been letting teams get them on points. Washington, week 15, total gimme. And then week 16 is a little tough, a little dicey. You might want to put him in the flex against San Francisco. My third beast for you this week is one of the horsemen on the Broncos, wide receiver Eric Decker, who I know has been a little bit of a sleeper on and off, hasn't been consistent every week, but I've been putting him in on a 1-2 punch on one of my teams with Demaryius Thomas, and it's been getting the job done. The Sheriff finally paid off for him, gave him some huge fantasy dividends. In some leagues, got up to 50, 55 points. In Yahoo, I got 50. Versus Kansas City last week, 8 for 174 yards and 4 touchdowns. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 touchdowns. That's some crazy Megatron action. Eric Decker, the Sheriff, finally finds him in the end zone a whole ton of times. Now, he had his last monster week was back in week 7, but he's gotten a lot of PPR points since. He has 3 good fantasy playoff weeks coming up for you. Week 14, Tennessee at home. Week 15, San Diego at home. We know how good the Broncos have been doing at Mile High. San Diego kind of got to them at home down there at Qualcomm. It's not going to happen up there. Decker is just going to be finding the end zone. Orange Julius is going to be finding the end zone. Wes Welker is going to be finding the end zone. It's going to be awesome. Week 16 is at Houston. How piss poor is Houston? They are just going to ball out. The Broncos are just going to go crazy on them. Houston has nothing to play for anymore, and it's just going to be pathetic. Speaking of pathetic, I've done horrible in this league, but coming up next is Prost, who came first for the season in our biggest balls and maul league, but now he has a target on his back. Too bad I'm not even in the playoffs to take him down, but I mean, Jenilee has a chance. Everybody else has a chance. Go get Prost. But Prost is coming up next with the injury report and with his one-hit blunder of the week. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Big Balls Fantasy Football. We are here with Prost, live from San Diego, who right now is first place in our biggest balls of them all fantasy league. Prost, what do you got to say for yourself?
I never doubted it.
Pompous ass. Anyway.
He's first going into the playoffs, so we really don't know what's going to happen.
I tell people the same thing. There's a couple leagues I'm not in first, and it's like, you know what? Enjoy it, because week 14 and week 16 matters when you're on top. Week 14 is nothing, just another week.
Yeah, we call what you have on your back a target, sir, and Jenilee is coming for it. I'm in mourning not only for my Bears, but I'm in mourning for my fantasy team in our league. I came in third to last, 5-8.
Yeah, he sucked it really bad, but I have to play this week because I'm 5th, so I do not get a bye week like Prost does here. So
lucky you.
I got to win this week to keep it going.
So
I'm guaranteed to play week 15, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're gonna end up like your Packers, falling flat on their face. So I know our Bears have been doing crappy in the division. I mean, we have a super tight division, and the Lions seem to be suddenly running away with it. What do you got to say for your Packers?
We tied the Vikings at least.
Oh.
You know what? The Packers in Detroit, I thought I was watching like a high school team. They couldn't stop anybody from defense. It wasn't so much gap control. They grabbed the guy. They couldn't tackle him. But the offensive line could not block anything. It was amazing.
Yeah, I really expected Flynn to play better than he did. I mean, he just couldn't get anything going with that offense. So it was a disappointment because I thought the game would be closer, and it was the first game of Thanksgiving, and it was just like, wah, wah, wah.
Yep. no other better way of putting it.
When you have no offensive line, there's not a quarterback you could have put back that would any better. You know, not saying Flynn's didn't have a really bad game, but he never had any time.
So what's the word? Well, we'll get into the rest of the injuries in a moment. What is the latest word on Aaron Rodgers, if he's going to play this week or not in Week 14?
He's not medically cleared to play yet. It's only Tuesday. Once he's medically cleared, we're talking about putting him in. Personally, if we can't win the left with whoever's quarterback, I'll just put him on IR. See what you can get out of the second string guys. Reps, we have if this situation happens again next, we have a chance to at least compete. Because basically the season fell apart and he could go out and crack his shoulder. So,
yeah. So your opinion is, as a Packer fan and as a partial owner, you think they should just sit him and just say screw it to the season?
Well, if he can play, he can play. We've seen how good Detroit is. I mean, they're going to shoot themselves in the foot. A game and a half lead is nothing. If Green Bay had been anything but Detroit, Green Bay had, how can I say this? If they'd have shown up, you had 4 turnovers, you had 2 kickoffs out of bounds where you get the ball on the 40-yard line. Any other team would have beaten the Lions on Thursday. So, personally, I wouldn't give up on the Pack yet, but if you lose, now you're 2.5 back with 3 to play. That's a problem.
I got you, man. I got you. So, let's get into the rest of the injuries besides Aaron Rodgers, who everybody in fantasy is waiting to have come back. Let's get the balls to the wall injury report going.
Okay, it's a little early for the full-fledged injuries to come out. I'm just going by what I remember from last week and seeing on football. The concussion list is long and distinguished. Cleveland still has no quarterbacks. They went out and got your boy Caleb Haney today.
I know.
Yeah, they're desperate. They are super desperate over there.
First they got Jason Campbell, and then they got Caleb Haney.
Campbell both concussed.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell still has a concussion. He was Batman. I think he's the worst of anybody. He was completely clueless as to what happened in that game. He looked rough. Deshaun Giants got a concussion late, but over Thursday concussions, they should be okay for football. The Jets put Joshua Cribbs on IR today. I don't know if anybody really cares. And Green Bay put Jonathan Franklin on IR. I don't know if he was hurt that bad. They've already Cleo Bell, who hopefully, if he can't play quarterback, can be an offensive lineman. I don't know if we can get a running back.
Yeah, everybody's picking up our former players, Jenilee. I mean, they must have been good at some point. And people are still believing in them for some reason.
Yeah, but they're not winning with them, so
exactly.
That's kind of what happens there. Do you have any info on Cutler? On our Cutler?
No, not really. It's still early in the week. He's talking about coming back. I'm still a McCown fan. I think they're like kicking him in the shins and hitting the ribs to keep him coming back into the game.
Well, I think it's a similar situation to the Rodgers that if we don't have a shot, I mean, now it's a super long shot. There'd have to be a million things to happen.
Right. Then
you might as well just keep him out, you know what I mean, for the last 4 games. I mean, why have him go in if there's not even a shot for the playoffs? It just seems dumb. You know, it seems like why put Rodgers in to get injured further if you can't make the playoffs?
And there's also the old Bears theory, you know, maybe we'll actually lose a few more games and get a better draft pick.
That's what I'm looking at with the Packers at this point.
Exactly.
You must play for the draft. The Packers will be split with the Lions, whereas the Bears were swept.
Yeah.
So the only thing that the Bears have to hope for is complete total collapse by the Lions and beating the Packers week 17.
Yeah. It can happen.
Yeah.
That's why I'm dressed in black and.
One in how many million?
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with you, Jenilee. I think the next time the Bears win is the next time I'll put on my Bears colors because I'm disgusted. I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the show. It was just bad. Let's go back to Le'Veon Bell for just a second. I have a little bit of a gripe with the referees, and I don't know if anybody agrees with me. I'm watching that game with Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and they were a little pissed off about the fact that some guy goes helmet to helmet on him, breaks his helmet, and there's no penalty call at all. Concussed to the point of, like, you don't know where the hell he is. But no call whatsoever.
And that's one of a few bad calls that really happened this week. You know, it seemed like we saw a few more bad calls this week that are being discussed more than a lot of previous weeks this season. You know, there was that bad call in the Washington game, and then, of course, the Steelers coach being on the field.
Yeah.
You know, there was all kind of interesting things that happened and some bad calls.
Yeah, definitely.
That's an illegal procedure penalty. They got to stay that guy on these teams. That's an illegal procedure penalty for him to be having a foot on the field. He can't come out. He's seen come out and gripe at the officials about stuff. But to wander around the field and watching the kickoff return on the big screen, that was planned from the minute one. I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, definitely to make the place go completely ballistic. So I think that's about it for the injuries. Let's move on to the one-hit blunder of the week.
One The thing though about Le'Veon Bell, I understand the intent of the rule. Is they said the minute the helmet comes off, the play is stopped, it's blown dead. And that's to prevent somebody from doing, what was it? Moose Johnson used to do it back in the day, and it was a tight end that did it. Where the helmet comes off, these guys keep running for extra yards with no helmet on.
Right.
I can understand blowing the play dead there. But when Bell got hit, his momentum of his knocked out body carried him and the ball over the plane.
Right.
That should have been a touchdown.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was not even conscious at that point, but you have to let that play out. At least let the ball hit the ground. I don't understand it exactly.
Well, and when you take a blow like that, you should at least get rewarded for it, for crying out loud. I mean, come on. At least prize fighters get money when they lose. So it was really, really stupid. Okay, let's go on to our... Speaking of blunders like that, let's go on to our one-hit blunders, man.
My favorite blunder, this is our TV version blunder. We'll get a different one tomorrow. This guy, he filled in as the number 2 receiver at the beginning of the year when Blackman was serving his suspension. He's now filling in for the injured Mike Brown. NFL Network said to pick up this guy who's owned in like 0.2% of the leagues, Ace Sanders, a wide receiver.
Right.
In the last 3 games, he's been targeted 8 times in each game. The first and third most recent games, he had 8 catches, 61 yards, and 8 catches, 67 yards, no touchdowns. 2 weeks ago in Houston, he had 4 catches for 61 yards, and one of them was a 51-yard play. So I'm calling him my one-hit blunder, especially based on the fact that, we tend to disagree on this show because we disagree. We don't change our minds halfway through the show. NFL Network came out, and one of the announcers was saying how on Thursdays, teams dumb back the playbook, and they tend to run more on Thursdays. There's less passing, so don't expect to see a big passing game on Thursday nights. It's statistical tradition through this year. I can buy that. And as soon as Ace Sanders was pushed as the guy to pick up off the waiver wire by a different correspondent, this same guy said, oh, yeah, he's the one. He's going to be the guy that surprises on Thursday night. So he changed his mind because they must have filmed segments 10 minutes apart. I love you, NFL Network. You're giving me a job one day. It's not going to be working for you either.
No, you're too smart for NFL Network. We're all too smart for NFL Network. So that you're picking that one. So what about for next week?
Well, Ace Sanders is...
Oh, he's the one for next week. Got it. So who did you pick last week?
Oh, last week I went, caught me off guard here. We look away from the camera. That's okay. They get to do that on the networks too.
It's all right.
I was saving that for tomorrow's show. I picked up Barry Cunningham, St. Louis running back.
Right.
He waiver wire because Zach Stacy was going to be out. Turns out Zach Stacy played. Barry Cunningham got you 2 rushes, 16 yards, no catches.
And Zach Stacy got me some points too, my league.
And I know Percy Harvin's been basically your blunder weekly. Every week he's like on the radar, and he didn't even play, so I'd say he blundered, right?
Blunder Emeritus got a cortisone shot with a hip. And
he's definitely the...
fell back to earth. He threw a pass that was incomplete, rushed once for 10 yards, had 4 receptions for 25 yards, and Ray Rice fell back to earth, 12 for 32 rushing, and 6 catches for 38 yards. So I'll leave those 2 guys alone now. They've proven themselves to be total blunders. Percy, I'm going to keep you on for a while. You amuse me.
Oh, yeah. He's our Bradshaw. He's your Bradshaw this year. I had Bradshaw last year, who was my whipping boy. Percy Harvin's your whipping boy, man.
Yeah, he's got a couple more weeks we can play.
Oh, yeah. My boyfriend was very sad that he didn't play. Mm-hmm. Trust me. Because he didn't put a couple people in on the Thursday games and then found out that Percy wasn't going to play. So he's a little heartbroken over there.
Damn. Oh, man. Cool. Well, that's our show, everybody. Good luck in Week 14 here. First week of the playoffs for some people. You know, some people a bye week. Lucky bastard.
A little vacation.
Yeah.
That's right. And
yeah.
other people don't start the playoffs till next week. So, of course, we'll have more playoff information going into next week as some of us are going to be through a round and other people will just be starting. So
Got it. Yeah. So don't forget to go to bigballsfantasyfootball.com. That's our hub where you can find our video casts and our podcasts that are up all the time. Listen to our podcast on every Wednesday when we usually get our video cast posted up as well. That's at blogtalkradio.com/GRR.
And, of course, go to our Facebook, facebook.com/bigballsfantasyfootball. Like us. We put everything on there every week as it happens. And tweet us at bigballsfball. We are racking up some followers on there and, you know, retweet some of our stuff. But we post a lot of funny stuff on there, too.
Definitely. Any last words, Prost?
No, I'm going to be enjoying my time off this week after tomorrow's show, and we'll be back for us to do it again next week. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Thank you, Pros.
Alrighty.
So,
Good night.
all right.